Today, my family decided to host a barbecue, a favorite activity of the older generation, it seems. I wasn't keen on attending because my relationships with my two sisters, their husbands, and their children are strained, to say the least. My wife and I prefer a child-free lifestyle, which often puts us at odds with my family's expectations. Despite our reluctance, pressure from my mother led us to join the gathering, which was already bustling with about 27 guests by the time we arrived. Upon arrival, we found my sisters and their husbands were noticeably intoxicated, adding an uneasy undertone to the atmosphere. My mother spent her time chasing after my young nieces and nephews, while my father conveniently distanced himself, soaking in the whirlpool with a cooler of beers at hand. My wife and I engaged in small talk, grabbed some food, and enjoyed a frozen margarita. However, my sisters soon began to needle us about our punctuality, attire, and general presence, which they claimed was dampening the party's spirit. The tension heightened when three children, egged on by their tipsy parents, decided to push a guest towards the pool, resulting in her stumbling and getting partially soaked. She was visibly upset but chose not to create a scene, quickly drying off and leaving the party. Later, as I stood chatting near the pool, I narrowly avoided a similar fate by sidestepping three charging children, who ended up splashing into the water themselves. While most guests found this amusing, the mothers did not. It turned out 4 of the children couldn't swim, which led to an eruption of blame directed mainly at me for the near mishap. The chaos escalated when it was discovered that during the commotion, 4 iPhones had been filmed into the pool by the kids. Attempts by my inebriated brother-in-law to retrieve the devices were futile, and no one else seemed eager to jump in, likely deterred by the ongoing conflict instigated by my sisters. I pointed out that supervising the children was their responsibility, not mine, which only intensified the argument. After enduring harsh words and witnessing another brother-in-law stumble and fall while trying to confront us, my wife and I decided to leave. The accusations continued, with suggestions that I should have just let the children push me into the pool for the sake of their amusement, a sentiment I firmly rejected. Reflecting on the day, the incident with the children was regrettable, but highlighted the lack of supervision and responsibility from their parents. While it's always pleasant to see my parents and their neighbors, the dynamics with my sisters and their husbands remain fraught with envy and discontent. My sisters have always been distant, and our differing lifestyles and values continue to drive a wedge between us. Despite their husbands' financial success, my wife and I enjoy the freedom and opportunities our careers and child-free choices afford us, which often seems to be a point of contention. In summary, the day reinforced my preference for keeping a certain distance from my family. Their behavior, while occasionally petty and irksome, often reminds me of the stark differences in our outlooks on life and responsibilities. Neither my wife nor I particularly enjoy spending time with certain family members, which is why I was initially reluctant to attend the gathering. My wife, however, tends to be more positive and usually looks forward to seeing everyone. It seems that even she has reached her limit with them, judging by her comments during our drive home. It's likely that next time, she won't feel compelled to join purely out of obligation, which could be a silver lining in all of this. My wife is generally more forgiving and patient with my siblings than I am, but it's become clear that her tolerance is waning. On the other hand, my dad is an incredibly laid-back person who thrives in social settings. Having been account manager, he enjoys making sure everyone has a good time, especially now that he's retired. During the recent get-together, he just relaxed and enjoyed the festivities, which is typical of him. My mother is also great, but she was a bit upset by the situation. As for the children, they were doing just fine. By the time I left, they were indoors watching TV. The older children, especially the 13-year-old who tends to lead the pack, instigated a bit of chaos, but nothing out of the ordinary for a family event. Speaking of the event, it was organized as a makeshift 4th of July celebration because my sister's family was away on a real holiday. My parents, who love hosting, decorated their home with flags and red, white, and blue banners, and even set up a barbecue and margarita machine. They promised sparklers for the kids, making it a special day despite the absence of some family members. Unfortunately, the party didn't end on the best note. My brother-in-law ended up needing stitches after an incident at the party and was too inebriated to drive himself to urgent care. This caused quite a stir and later led to a heated exchange in a family group chat, which resulted in my wife and I deciding to block several family members. Following these events, my parents demanded that those involved come over the next day to clear the air and establish some ground rules. The outcome was a half-hearted apology, mediated by my mom. In a later development, I received an unreasonable demand for money via text, which I immediately dismissed and reported to my parents. This escalated to my parents severing ties with my siblings' families regarding some family properties and privileges, which significantly shook everyone involved. Overall, these experiences have led us to a decision to distance ourselves from these family gatherings if those family members are present, to maintain our peace and avoid further conflicts. Our lives have taken a tranquil turn recently, especially after making some changes regarding our family interactions and a mountain property we own. My parents, who've always been the laid-back type, now enjoy regular weekend getaways there, a change from their usual routine and a testament to their newfound zest for life. We bought this house in the mountains for them, a dream they've harbored for years. To avoid any unnecessary family drama, we kept the ownership a secret, especially from my siblings. Not long ago, my sister and her husband unexpectedly showed up at our house to offer apologies while my wife and I were out for dinner. They left a note, and my sister even tried calling me at work, but I chose not to answer. After some reflection, we've decided to minimize contact with certain family members. It's been a few weeks since we've spoken to them, and honestly, our lives have become significantly calmer. The constant low-level family drama, which wasn't exactly toxic but definitely draining, has ceased, and it's refreshing. The property is under my name, and although I cover all associated costs, my parents have full control over it. They decide who can use it and when. This arrangement has made things simpler, especially with the family dynamics being what they are. Despite some siblings dreaming of one day building a family compound on the larger-than-average lot, which offers potential for multiple homes with great views, those plans are unlikely to materialize. My sisters aren't truly remorseful. Their apologies seem driven by what they stand to gain or lose. As for my parents, they continue to enjoy their autonomy. They've even started spending individual time with my nieces and nephews, picking them up from school and spending quality time with them, one-on-one rather than all together, which has proven less stressful. They've made it clear they don't intend to host my sisters and their families at their mountain retreat anytime soon. Looking ahead, if and when the time comes to decide the property's future, we're leaning towards selling it rather than managing it ourselves. If we crave mountain air, renting a place will suffice. This whole situation has revealed many underlying family dynamics and has allowed my parents to reclaim their peace, something they deeply cherish. In the end, the peacefulness we've experienced recently has been enlightening, emphasizing the value of setting boundaries and cherishing the quiet moments away from needless drama. This incident, starting from a simple pool party, turned out to be a catalyst for positive change in our family dynamics. To give you some context, my parents have never been great at saving money. I've been handling their taxes for years, so I'm quite familiar with their financial situation. They own their home outright and have little debt, but they didn't save much for retirement. They rely mostly on Social Security, my dad's decent pension, and a small amount of savings, definitely no hidden riches. I even bought them a car when they retired, which was the first car they owned in 25 years without leasing. My sisters have always assumed our parents are wealthy and believe they will inherit everything, dismissing the need to save money themselves. Recently, my eldest sister revealed her family's financial troubles. They've maxed out credit cards and are behind on car payments to the point of facing repossession. She confessed to my parents that her supposed high income was actually half of what she claimed, and that for the last 1 year, she had been renting out our family's vacation home, earning thousands from it, without our knowledge. Now cut off from using the vacation home, she had to cancel upcoming rentals, fearing they'd lose everything. My parents are in no position to help financially. My other sister knew about the rental scheme and might have been doing the same. I discovered this when I encountered a family at the vacation home who claimed they were friends staying on behalf of my sister. When my parents informed me of this situation, they warned me that my sisters might soon approach me for help. Sure enough, they showed up at my doorstep, pleading to use the vacation home, and even demanded I pay for their children's college tuitions. I confronted them with what I knew, leading to an intense argument filled with denial and tears. After they left, I sought peace by securing the vacation home. I installed a new lock on the gate, reset the door keypad codes, and added security cameras, a necessary expense for peace of mind. I've taken over managing the property for my parents, who are now unfortunately caught in the middle of this mess. This responsibility shift has changed how we use the vacation home, making it a protected space rather than one of shared family enjoyment. My parents have officially handed off the vacation home management to me due to the pressure from my sisters. I've upgraded security further, ensuring only authorized access to maintain the property's integrity. While this was all unexpected, it's become my responsibility to handle these new dynamics and secure our family's property for the future. I haven't shared with anyone except my wife that we've changed the locks on our vacation home, and only we have the keys now. Last week, I received separate calls from both of my brothers-in-law at work, each trying to persuade me to let them use the property as before. The elder brother, after planning a guy's weekend, was visibly upset when he found the gate locked and was unable to access the house. His frustration was palpable, swinging between being demanding and playing the victim during our conversation. He even threatened to tear out the gate and revealed that they had been renting out the property to make some extra money. He accused me of sabotaging their side business and demanded that I compensate their guests, which I refused. I regret not recording that call, but I wasn't sure how to do it from my office phone. The other brother seemed less insistent, possibly pressured into calling by my sister. I stood firm, telling him they should no longer plan to use the property. The conversation ended with me making it clear that they were not to ask again. I'm now considering selling the property since my wife and I don't use it enough to justify the upkeep, and it doesn't seem like it will host family gatherings anytime soon. When I mentioned potentially selling the home to my parents, they were indifferent, though selling it would significantly increase my investment return. The property, consisting of 5 lots with stunning views and located at the end of a private road, is valuable, but I plan to hold off on selling to avoid making a hasty, emotionally driven decision. Currently, there's a rift in the family, and I've not initiated any contact with my sisters. To manage the property, I've hired a local who oversees several properties, performs regular checks, and maintains security with cameras. For $570 a month, plus hourly maintenance fees, he ensures everything is in order and even shares photos from his site visits, providing peace of mind. My parents, meanwhile, have handled the family dynamics creatively. They proposed a Thanksgiving plan where everyone could chip in to rent an Airbnb in the mountains, which led to some disagreement among my sisters due to differing financial situations. Ultimately, Thanksgiving will be hosted by my parents, but my wife and I won't attend. My parents have asked us not to sell the house for now, hoping it might still be used occasionally once things settle down. Despite this, my sisters and their husbands have attempted to contact us through new numbers to negotiate access to the house, which we have ignored. In a troubling turn of events, my brothers-in-law recently broke into the property, resulting in their arrest for multiple charges. I've decided not to drop the charges unless they compensate for the damages caused. This incident has further strained our already tenuous relations. Despite suggestions to turn the house into an Airbnb, I'm hesitant due to the potential drama it could stir within the family and the additional burden it would place on my parents. For now, the future of the vacation home remains uncertain as we navigate these complex family dynamics. I had previously requested a few repairs and provided a list to my contractor, who often sends his clients captivating photos of wildlife or sunsets every week. This charming gesture had me looking forward to visiting my vacation home the Friday after Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, that plan was overshadowed by a distressing incident involving my relatives, referred to here as the John, who caused considerable damage to my property. They forcefully entered the property by cutting through the chain on the driveway gate with an angle grinder, which also damaged the gate itself. They then attempted to enter through the front door, ruining the lock and severely damaging the door in the process. Failing that, they gained access through the utility floor door and an internal door, which was also locked. They even broke into the barn, though I'm unsure of their intentions there. The sheriff's deputies, alerted by Liam, the factory helper who monitors the property's camera system, intercepted them as they tried to exit through the front door. Liam had noticed suspicious activity and promptly notified the sheriff's department. Despite their attempts to talk their way out of the situation, the deputies were not persuaded and arrested them. This sort of break-in is taken very seriously in the area, often attributed to individuals looking to steal whatever they can. While my wife and I were enjoying a day with her parents in vacation mode, leaving our phones in the car, the sheriff's office and Liam tried to contact us to determine how we wanted to handle the situation. Without our input, the deputies booked the John on multiple charges, which aligned with what I would have wanted anyway. The situation escalated as the John, upon their arrest, made threats and displayed aggressive behavior, which was particularly unwise in front of law enforcement. Meanwhile, their frantic wives contacted my parents, attempting to reach me as well, although they were blocked. They struggled to find a local attorney over the holiday weekend to arrange bail. Since it's a rural area and funds were tight, securing bail became a complicated matter. Upon checking our phones late Friday, my wife and I were inundated with messages and calls from family and the sheriff's department. This news significantly dampened my spirits. I spent the night grappling with my anger and discussing the situation with Liam to understand the extent of the damage, which only fueled my frustration further. By Saturday, I had decided to press charges against the John without hesitation, despite my parents being swayed by my sisters to drop the charges. I have not yet visited the property since the incident, fearing that seeing the damage firsthand might be overwhelming. I've been arranging legal counsel to address the situation comprehensively, including seeking restraining orders and potentially suing for damages and unauthorized rental income from the property. In summary, the incident has caused significant stress and discord within the family. My wife has reached her limit with the ongoing drama, and I am determined to ensure justice is served, emphasizing that the John must be held accountable for their actions. This resolve is further compounded by my desire to avoid any future contact with those responsible, focusing instead on legal remedies and securing the property more rigorously moving forward. In a dramatic turn of events on Monday, I received a courier-delivered envelope at my office containing a signed letter from my brothers-in-law along with a cashier's check for $7,000. The letter was an earnest apology for their actions, including a confession of their break-in and an acknowledgement of its wrongdoing. They expressed their intent to compensate for all damages, offering additional payment if the costs exceed the initial $7,000, and promised to keep their distance from our vacation home unless explicitly invited by my wife and me. Furthermore, they requested that I help in getting the charges against them dropped to avoid losing their jobs, and even agreed to a restraining order if necessary. The content was conciliatory, marking a complete reversal from their previous behavior. Shocked by this development, I immediately contacted my attorney, who had already been preparing to sue for the damages and secure a restraining order. We advanced our meeting to discuss this new development, during which he advised against depositing the check just yet. After a lengthy consultation, my attorney suggested we opt for a settlement and mutual release agreement with both brothers-in-law and our sisters, highlighting that while a lawsuit would likely be successful, it could be lengthy and costly, with no guarantee of financial recovery. He assured us we could retain the $7,000 without prejudice towards the ongoing legal process. I then instructed my commercial property manager to provide a precise estimate for the repairs, which he calculated would cost around $6,000, primarily to fix the front door. By Friday, my attorney had already briefed the brothers-in-law on the proposed settlement and urged them to consult their own legal representation. In a candid response, they expressed a willingness to comply fully, recognizing that they had little defense for their actions and were more concerned with potential job losses and legal consequences, including the possibility of jail time for one brother-in-law who holds a security clearance. My attorney also initiated contact with the district attorney's office to discuss the possibility of dropping the charges, given the restitution and lack of prior offenses. He anticipates a favorable outcome, but mentioned that I might need to personally advocate for the dismissal early next week. The proposed agreement includes provisions similar to a restraining order, and I've been advised to maintain no contact with the involved parties for at least the 7 months, adhering strictly to the terms of the agreement to avoid future complications. I've chosen not to share the details of the legal settlement with my family until everything is officially finalized. While my sisters may discuss it if they wish, I prefer to keep the matter between the involved parties until we conclude with the final signatures on December 7th. 10 days following that, on a Tuesday morning, I reviewed the agreement with my lawyer, made some minor adjustments, and sent the revised document to my sisters and their husbands. The new terms required them to cover my legal fees, which amounted to about $5,597. They were initially unhappy with this and tried to negotiate, but my lawyer was firm. He stated that the agreement had to be accepted as presented or we would proceed with legal actions for various damages, including those from their unauthorized rental of the property, the physical damages incurred, and emotional distress caused by the ordeal. They eventually agreed and signed the document, though I wasn't present at the signing. I was informed that the atmosphere was quite tense. Middle John seemed to take a leading role, at one point even telling my sisters to remain silent or he would negotiate separately. They managed to produce another cashier's check for $3,800, claiming it was all they could gather. We decided to accept this as the final payment. The next day, I visited the vacation home to assess the damage, and it was quite upsetting. I was so affected by the state of the property that I considered taking drastic measures against them. However, after a long conversation with a close friend who helped me vent and see the larger picture, I calmed down and redirected my focus on moving forward. I also met with the assistant district attorney who informed me that, given my decision not to press for severe charges and the John already paid, all charges would be dropped except for a trespassing misdemeanor. The legal agreement we crafted included a no-contact clause, ensuring that neither party would interact unless through legal or mutually agreed means. It also allowed my sisters to retain the rental income from the property, a significant concession on my part, subject to potential tax implications which they would be responsible for. All other liabilities were mutually released. My wife and I are set to sign the agreement later today, and once that is done, I'll mostly be unable to discuss the specifics of this situation publicly. I might, however, continue to share my thoughts around the periphery of these events. Engaging with others about this has been therapeutic and instrumental in helping me manage the situation constructively. Reflecting on family dynamics, it's clear they have deteriorated significantly. While my parents are aware we're trying to resolve matters, they're unaware of the specifics, which I've chosen to keep from them for the time being. Looking back, I realized that tensions began escalating when I purchased my first property and subsequently met my wealthy wife, which may have sparked feelings of resentment among my sisters. Our relationships have since been marked by a growing distance, culminating in the recent conflicts. Despite everything, I still hold a faint hope that this agreement marks the end of our disputes, allowing us all to move on without further drama. My biggest takeaway from this ordeal is a deeper understanding of my limits when it comes to familial relationships and a more grounded perspective on handling personal conflicts.